And even if you were to have like a prompt of 10 different things, right? Like say if you had one prompt of like, oh, like here's 10 different personality traits, here's 10 different superpowers, here's 10 different drawbacks.
I like coming up with random list of powers and then just see what I come up with.
Imagine rolling just those things every single time. It's always going to vary. The possibility of that happening is, again, like a 1 in 10 chance, but it's like, it shows that there's
always something else cool right around the corner that we can come up with, because there's no end to the prompts. There's no end to what we can roll up.
Now we're going to be officially rolling for superpowers. This is usually the make or break. Alrighty, ayo, and hello everyone, and welcome to Roll for Hero, a segment of our channels in which we let the dice dictate what on God's green earth we will be drawing for today. It is me, your ever weird, never cracked out, never loving Uncle Lee, and of course with me today is my big bearded, bald-headed, beautiful co-star. You know him, you love him, claim to be the world's sexiest man of all time, Mr. Finn.
What is up, everybody? What is up, Ben? What is up, Dragon Gaming? I got to apologize. 100% my fault. We started late. We got in the middle of a conversation, and then I really got to thinking about the answers and completely forgot that we were supposed to start the show.
I will admit, I was the one who engaged in the conversation, and then we just kind of led on from there. So that's my bad. I forget that we love to dive into our conversations and get deep, in all of the nuances of it.
There's no asking either one of us for a quick answer either. And, so like once I got asked a question like, well, if we weigh the pros and cons.
It's so actually and the combo was pretty hefty because it's about this season. Anyways. Bum, bum, bum. And I'll just, questioning some stuff here and there. But outside of that, we have been going so far. What is this? This is officially episode 7. So we have dove right into creating this entirely strange world that honestly has shocked me. I will admit, this entire season has very much shocked me because for anyone who's noticed so far, this was definitely one that has always chucked me in through a loop. It is definitely taking me places where I'm like, I wasn't expecting to actually like this. This was surprising. I'm intrigued. I'm a little bit surprised on that. So, this was definitely a show. Hold on, imagine doing kaiju designs for Roll for Hero since the next month is Kaijun. Okay. Honestly, hold up, Mr. Fish. I'm not gonna lie. With our combo that we had beforehand, we can do the rest. Should we discuss with the nieces and the nephews of the dispute that we had beforehand?
I like kaiju. I like giant monsters.
Who
doesn't like giant monsters? Come on. Who doesn't like giant monsters?
Okay. At that point, that's actually Benjamin, my nephew there, Benji. Listen, you're providing very, very dangerous thought processes here, but this one actually might be beneficial to us. Actually, I'm going to be the one to shoot this question out there. So to the nieces and nephews currently watching, our channel here, please pop off in the chat and please let us know. So Fish and I were discussing this beforehand because we have been enjoying the season thus far. Season 3 has been a very unique season, especially given the fact that, we've drawn different variety of aliens and different set, like these different designs, diving into different cultures and stuff like that. But I will admit, we are, at least for me, this season has been very much off-kilter. This has not been the best season for me, at least. Design-wise, character design-wise, I've been having a blast. From the Aztec, paladin to the Egyptian assassin. We also happen to have our Chinese blacksmith guy over here, our alien druid main protagonist. And you're right, Dragon Gaming. Giant monsters are overrated, said no one. And then, of course, we also happen to have our Celtic monk and our cleric-like, Greek aliens, all set in this strange Bronze Age sandal-punk world. Now, every design that we have done so far has been very intriguing and very interesting. But for me, I feel like this isn't the most unique season to latch on to personally. All right, what are your thoughts on this?
Well, I can definitely tell that you've been having a harder time really grabbing a hold of getting excited about it. You know, it hasn't grabbed your passion yet, hasn't lit a fire in you. And it was a little bit of a slow burn for me. I'm starting to get there, but still I can admit it's been a slower burn. And so, you know, we were talking about the idea of possibly doing the last half of this season doing some other stuff and like redesigning some popular superheroes that we know, like maybe picking well-known superheroes and seeing how we would have designed them, or you know what we would have done with them, maybe redesigning some of the characters that you guys have come up with and taking your designs and drawing them in our styles, or just doing some other stuff for the rest of the season and having fun rather than continuing down a path that has been a little harder to get super excited about. And I'm fine with that idea, but we wanted to see what you guys thought about it. If you wanted us to finish fleshing out the rest of this world and see what we come up with, because I will admit it didn't feel like there was a cohesive theme to it until the last couple of episodes. And I knew it would come together, and it finally did. But also, like, there are those ideas where you're like, oh, I'm so excited. I want to, you know, and then there's ideas like, oh, you know what would be good? And yeah, I
I
like
feel
the
like
ones we're excited about. You know, it's this
yeah,
is
and
what
honestly, I'm not gonna lie. It's like right now we're finally narrowing down like a type of plot. Maybe I feel like there's something happening here, and Fish is right. 100%. Fish is correct. We finally have like a quote unquote main character. We actually have all the other interesting, characters from different regions of this world. But right now, I feel like this is more or less like an open-ended type of situation, to where it's like this could literally go either one or two ways, and I feel like regardless, it'll benefit. But it is dependent on you guys, because obviously I very much enjoy the show, and I always want to be a man of my word, trying to stick to the season. But at some point in time, some ideas aren't necessarily pulling through, and I'm really like, don't get me wrong,
if
every
it's a
time we
harder
have,
road to plow, and if everybody's not as quite as excited about it as as we were on some other seasons, because I've also noticed, not for nothing, that there's a couple of folks that haven't been in the comments lately, which things happen, things come up, schedules change, all kinds of things can happen. But I've noticed there have been a few folks that haven't been hanging out as much as they used to, and we haven't been getting as much fan art as we were getting on some of the other seasons. So, also, this is supposed to be inspiring creativity in you guys. And if you guys aren't as excited about the idea or wanting to create something to go in this world, and then we're not, we're supposed to be having fun together. And so if we need to make a turn and do something different, we're open to that, is what we're saying. So
yeah,
think about it, dwell on it for a moment. We're going to go ahead and roll up our character for this week. And
yep.
maybe this is the last character in the sandal-punk world. Honestly, I think we have a lot of cool characters. We could do a cool book out of this now if we wanted to. But we're
Maybe.
going to
I
go
mean,
ahead and get started on that while
yep.
you guys dwell on it. And
So if you guys think we should continue on with the Sandal-punk alien world, please let us know. If not, again, just let us know. Maybe we can go a different direction. So in that way we can create, engagement from you guys. Also, we want to, again, the whole point of this channel, or at least the series. So as Mr. Fisher said, he stated everything beautifully here. I feel like I'm a corporate guy just rewording it and adding fancier words. But my mission statement, for Ultra Comics is that I want to create art that inspires all. And if the art isn't inspiring you guys to do something, and now again, we have seen some art of stuff that you guys have done for the season, but it's not as much in comparison to, say, seasons 1 and 2, and I want you guys to have fun with it. The whole point of art is to be very creative, to be very expressional and stuff. So again, let us know. I would even go as far as say 1 to continue, 2 for a different path. So then that way we can kind of like tally up and see where we go from there. Hey, makes it easier on us on that. All right. So we have done about 6 full-blown episodes. So at this point, we don't even need to be rolling 2d6. We should only be then rolling 1d6 as of right now, because we have basically gone through literally almost every occupation in the entirety of this list, almost everything. So
That's not a bad idea either, Ben. The idea of maybe rolling up another fused world for the rest of the season could be a very interesting way to go. And we would still be on the topic that we started this season on, but
okay.
could end up in something that's a little more exciting for the rest of the season. Or but that's not a bad idea. That's not a bad idea at all. So anyway, season 3, episode 7. Oh, we need faces. That's what we need. I forgot.
That we do. That we do. We'll make
Pull that
another.
guy up there, and let's pick our random images. Who is messaging you?
Nah, it's my Discord. It's with my friends. They're yapping it up in the chat.
Ooh. We got a Cyclops and a Robo Bug, dude.
Oh, my Cyclops.
So
oh shoot!
now-
Wait, I forgot. I forgot I made those characters. How do I silence them? How do I silence my friends? Because the chat has been popping off a bit too much there, buckaroo. Oh, my lord. Apologies, everybody. Everyone loves to yip and yap in the Discord chat. Exactly. Even better. Because they're talking about something with extracting teeth from a... I don't know anymore. Okay. Okay. So, okay, I gotta do some quick editing here. Just because as of this moment, hold on a second. There we go. All right.
Cyclopic alien and a robot. How many robots have been in this world now? That's a good question.
Honestly, like maybe 3 or 4.
I know I've done. This will be my second now, I think. I'm always excited for you guys' show. I'm just at work. I'd like to see you guys finish the alien sandal-punk world because it's interesting. My only thing is who is the protagonist of the story. Yeah, and that's the one that I think we pretty much nailed on. That his character, his wizard farm boy dude, is like the main character, and my bounty hunter dude would be like the secondary, kind of like the Han Solo that he meets on his journey and gets tagged up with, and then they go traveling the world, I think is where we've hit right now. So that would be the main character, because I really like the idea of taking somebody so far out of his little like village farmland, like this is what I spent my life wanting to do, and now I'm getting shoved out in a world I never wanted to really know about, and having to see all these other races and different worlds and religions and all this stuff, and how their stuff works, and help bring it all together in a larger scheme of things. I think is a beautiful story.
Yes. For context, this would be the quote unquote like main character of this entire story. So this is more or less what I managed to draw up from one of the doodles or from one of the sketches that we made. So this would be like the theoretical like main character for the series. Also, isn't that robot head just like a robotic version of the head that Mr. Fish used last week? No, it is not. It is a very different head that he has utilized.
It was a different scribble, but it does have some similar shapes to it, because honestly, my hand works the same way. So when I scribbled a bunch of shapes, a couple of them came out a little similar to each other. So, but no, it's a little bit different shape that I started from, but then you get a whole different look out of it when, I sketch something up out of it.
All right. So, man, I didn't realize we were really going through these things. That's 1, 2, 3. I feel like I may have skipped one. I'm not sure. I'm going crazy. All right. I'm gonna roll 1d6 and then see where we go from there. Because right now I had to scratch out the stuff that we already did and whatnot. We did Greek. We did we didn't do Hindu. Right. I'm all over the place. We did Chinese, Aztec, Native American. We did Celtic. I remembered. Was it Chinese or Japanese that we did?
Chinese that we did.
So we didn't do Japanese at all.
No.
Okay, that's starting to make more sense. All right. There we go. So now we have a proper 6.
Oh, you got to
Alright,
mark
so-
Chinese off because it's number 6.
All right, that we did do.
Yeah, we
Alright,
did
so
that one. We didn't do Japanese. There we go. Okay, now roll.
Perfect. Okay, so 1 is Norse, 2 is Hindu, 3 is Japanese, 4 is African, and then I'm gonna say 5 or 6 is going to be either the custom mashup, so that we can kind of like nail out either 1, 2, or we'll roll something else. We got 4, which is what's it called? African. So we got an African-based character this time. Love it. We're here for it. I am totally prepared, hence why I am just now taking out a little book and pen, pencil, and or some variation of a writing utensil to write this down. Okay. We got that, and then let's see. What did we do here?
This one is going to be different for both of us because
Okay, this one has because we did like a little bit of. Well, no, we did the.
Oh no, the class was the same. Okay, I take that back. So okay, we've done
Warlock, we done Druid, we done the Cleric, we did the Rogue, we did the Paladin, we did the Monk.
And the Monk. So there we go. That's it.
Wow. All right, yeah. So we only have either. So if we were we'll do another D6 roll. If we roll if we roll a 1, it's a barbarian. 2, fish. You can roll this one. So if it's a 1, it's a barbarian. 2, it's a fighter. 3, it's a bard. Or 4, it's going to be a sorcerer.
We are doing a fighter.
Oh, a classic warrior. Love it. Beauteous. So we got an African.
We'll just roll up accountant.
Right. All right. This one.
The numbers.
This one we got a lot more numbers in.
Yeah, this one we've all done different things too. So this one we kind of got to just roll and see what we get, I believe.
Yeah. In this case, I don't mind having a re-roll if I already did one or the other. This is where we go separate on this fish. Have at it. I have not done a merchant yet, so
inventors. Okay, I haven't done an inventor. That is
okay. And now that we got that out of the way, yeah, we gotta. Well, depending on whether or not we are going to continue this season or not, who knows? All right, where are you? There you are. No, that's actually not what I was looking for. I was looking for. Dang it! I had to find the things full of alien sketches. So it's not the one. No, it is not. I have way too many of these things. Where are you? I have probably. There we go. And found it. It was this Cyclops head right over here.
Okay. All right.
All right.
Now I can take that down. Skadoosh. And
Skadoosh.
I'll save as. And this is episode 7. All right. So now my African fighter inventor.
Creating like battle eyes or creating like ancient styled weaponry and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
Or like,
inventor like of the Stabblematic.
Or he definitely be like one of those like, you know how people like have this conspiracy theory of like the world beforehand, or like in the early days of Earth, it was such a strange time. There might have been magic, there might have been different technologies here and there and whatnot that probably stopped being utilized because we kept advancing, when in reality they were just as fine and stable back in them.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like it would be very interesting to see like this rendition of the world probably have the most cyborgs, or maybe the most variation of like that kind of technology, being able to create automatons and stuff.
Well,
That would be
that's the
very
thing. Like, there was a major African city that had like running hot water and flushing plumbing that was washed away with hot, like boiling water to keep it clean. Like, there was so much technological advancement in Africa when like Europe was still throwing their buckets of poo in the street in the morning, after a long night, and people were walking through that all day. And like, it was, they had some beautiful advancements, but all of that got wiped out and forgotten about and banned from people talking about it. And cut, like, if you wrote about that in your book about Africa, your book wouldn't get published, because that went against what the scientists had decided was the story they were telling about the country. And it's crazy when you go to look into it, which that kind of stuff, exactly, Africa had working toilets. That kind of stuff leads to people having conspiracy theories and not believing because so much stuff was covered up. Well, if that was covered up, maybe the Egyptians had levitation to move those giant bricks for the pyramids.
I think there was a guy online who managed to actually like create a lot of these like blocks and different shapes and whatnot that they were able to kind of like move with ease without having to do much like of the actual physical labor. Someone online, but it was very interesting to
There's
kind of
that
see.
one dude that moves those giant blocks around with just levers and like little rocks to put underneath it as a pivot point, and then can like, spin those giant blocks around and move giant freaking like Stonehenge sized blocks by himself. And
And then
it's
like
amazing
even
what you can do with the right
creating little
principle.
archways, and then when they were to move like square blocks, it basically almost rolled like a wheel essentially.
Oh, I forgot I had this crazy alien robot to work with. I was sitting here thinking like, what kind of inventor do I want to make my normal human man? And then I forgot I got this crazy robot. Four-armed cycloptic alien. That would be wild.
Haven't done a four-armed, well, outside of maybe Shelbyville from like season 1.
Oh, what's wrong there?
I think it's like the only other four-armed character I think I've made on this season.
Oh, speaking of four-armed characters, have you seen the new Ben 10 comic book?
I wanted to get that book so bad. The comic book shop that I'm like, mind you, for me, a comic shop is like 20 minutes out, so that's the closest I'll ever live by. Ran out of their first print, sold out, and I'm just like, you got to be kidding me! Like, it was a seller. It's clearly a good seller.
Oh man, yeah. I just found out about it and had them put it on my pull list. So, and he said he's still got a couple of copies of like a variant cover of issue 1. So he was throwing that in my box. So I'll get to read it at least. I'm way looking forward to that.
I think my comic shop is probably getting their second batch, or is getting like a batch. I think I already got it. I just haven't had the time to pre-order said thing.
This is my first time having a pull list in my life. And honestly, I only have it because of TS, because I wanted to get the digger. And I wasn't going to get it if I didn't pre-order it, because the only shop we have left in our town doesn't really order any indie books if it's not specifically asked for. So
yeah, well, that's also that's good to know. I was also gonna say the comic shop that I live close by. So if anyone's in the Orlando area, make sure to stop by over to Gods and Monster Comics. Not sponsored. Totally sponsor me. But they're a really cool comic shop because they actually do like indie signups. So like if you're like me, an independent comic creator, and you manage to finish a book, get it out there, or do whatever, you can actually go there and they'll actually, you can do like a whole book signing, and then you can actually, sell your books and stuff like that over there. So very intriguing stuff. Okay. Do I like the idea of these being giant teeth? Why not?
What are your thoughts on The Boys season 5? You haven't watched The Boys, have you?
I refuse.
I can totally understand that. I can totally understand that. I'm honestly only watching it now because I feel like I invested so much time in getting this far into a series that I didn't really care for that much to give up. It's a completionist thing, and it doesn't make a lot of sense, but it's the way my brain works, so that's what I'm doing.
Yeah, because when I heard like the creation of The Boys, how it was made by a guy who primarily read more war comics and stuff like that. And again, nothing wrong with reading those kinds of things, but when you basically create an entire thing that's dunking on and hating on superheroes, which, hey, do what you want. I'm not gonna entirely judge, but like the entirety of The Boys is just a hate piece to heroes, to superheroes in particular.
The original was the not that this is a little more measured take on it, but it's very gross. It honestly is in a lot of ways. It's very, very gross, and it's more of a look at like what would it really be like with as gross as people are if we had these powers and stuff and people could really do these things, and they would abuse their powers and they would abuse each other and they would do all the terrible things that people do now in worse ways, and it's kind of reveling in that a little bit. But the show isn't as hell bent on hating on heroes altogether as the original creator was, but it is still it's
Yeah,
pretty rough.
it's pretty rough. Now I will say though, because I have heard that obviously those who had to work on the show, they had to like dumb down a lot of what the stuff was done in the book, because that is, I don't even know how that managed to make a publication. With the amount of stuff in the books that, again, if anyone's actually read the Boys books, those are some very disturbing. There's a lot of disturbing imagery there, and again, I get it. The whole thing is supposed to be like a superhero hate piece. So the Boys, I know, like the show, definitely took a different direction, thankfully. But still, it's a show that it's like I can see why people like it. Not my forte, especially because I'm the guy making superhero comics, and I think that superheroes are meant to be paragons of something to look forward to, someone to be. And I also think too that like when The Boys came out, it was made during the time where people can still dunk on Superman, and it was still like a somewhat of a trendy thing to do. But now that we actually have like a decent Superman movie in today's day and age, now like the tone of that has shifted to an extent, to me at least. You know what I mean? Homelander probably doesn't help. Yeah, Homelander does not help with that fact. And again, I get why people like, to use Superman and try to make an evil rendition of him, or try to like play with the concept of like, what if he was this? What if he was that? But in reality, he isn't any of that. He is a good guy. He is a hero.
Mm-hmm. And the thought of somebody, like, it's understandable why the thought of somebody having that kind of power would be terrifying, because there's nothing you could do against somebody like that, and that's an interesting thing to delve into, and and how lonely it would be and stuff, which I think is something I think they're doing a little bit better this season so far. And so far, what I've seen, I haven't watched the whole thing yet, because like my wife doesn't want to watch that show, and then most of the day I'm working. So finding time that I'm not working, which is usually days that I can't sleep, uh, you know, I'm stuck to watching it like randomly in the middle of the night. But it's something. I think they're doing a better job this time of showing this season of showing how lonely Homelander is, and not that they haven't been trying to, but it's just. I'm not a fan. Honestly, I don't know. It's just the completionist thing that's forcing me to watch it. Um, they did a similar concept with Evil Superman with Omni Man from Invincible. Yeah, 100%. Invincible did it a lot better.
Yeah,
I mean, it's still graphic, it's still gory, but it was done out of an absolute reverence for heroes. Like, I love superhero comic books, and it's okay to kind of poke at and, you know, acknowledge that some of the things are weird and some of the things don't seem to make a lot of sense. And what would it be like if they made a little bit more sense, or if people had to live with the consequences of those things not making sense? Like the Immortal really being messed up by the fact that, he can't die, and him and Duplicate finding solace in each other because they're the only ones that understand what it's like to get killed 100 times, and and still be here. And that's interesting stuff, but that's coming out of people that loved comics, those kind of comics, and not somebody that hated them, and that's a very different vibe.
yeah. I will say with Robert Kirkman and Invincible, I don't sense that he hates. Again, he doesn't hate superheroes. Hence why Invincible is one of the more popular shows out there, and it still shows off like the fact that heroes can still do good. Even Omni Man, though the atrocities he's committed in the comics and even in the show, there is a sense of redemption that is being made,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like, to an extent we get it, because it's also trying to show the nature of like what it's like to be a hero, what it actually means to not be so selfish or to always fight for a cause that's actually very destructive. And the show is actually going out of its way to show that off in Omni-Man, and it's also happened in the comics. I like superhero comics to see heroes being heroes and actually having their morality be tested, and whether or not they're going to fight, dive into that topic, or maybe try to stay on to their morality. I like stuff like that because it shows like there's a possibility of being good, especially in today's day and age where right now a lot of things are pessimistic. We definitely need more, bright and hopeful heroes. Hence, when Superman came out, I think it came out at a really solid time where a lot of stuff has been heavy hitting. So to see someone actually be the good and to be the light in the darkness is very necessary, and I think superheroes, to an extent, to me at least, if I had to get so deep and philosophical as I already am, it's like I think they're a really good representation of that, and they're also people that we can, that we aspire to be. Because I mean, who hasn't tried to be Spider-Man? Who hasn't tried being cool like Batman? And who hasn't tried pretending that they're flying like Superman? You know?
Mm-hmm. Who hasn't taken a little plastic cape off of their Darth Vader and taped it to their shirt so that they could pretend to be Space Ghost? Huh? Huh? Oh, just me? uh, what are your thoughts on the Invincible show and comic? I I have most of the compendiums of Invincible. My wife got them for me for Christmas. I have not read them all because honestly, I don't want to get ahead of the show because of me personally. I know if I get ahead and I read the book first and then I'm watching the show, I'm going to be like, "Oh, they changed that. They changed that. They changed this." And I'm just going to instinctively be like, "Well, it was better in the comic." Like, so many people are, "Well, the book was better." Well, you can do all kinds of things in a book that you can't do
In
in
anime.
a movie, or especially a 2-hour movie. And and then animated shows kind of the same thing. But watching it, enjoying the show, then going back and reading the comics, and then seeing like, oh, they changed this and they changed that, and being like, you know what? Honestly, I think they did a better. I like this better, and partly some things they change just for time, just so it's easier to get to the point quicker and do what you wanted to do, tell the part of the story that you wanted to tell, or some of the changes, like uh his mom being Korean and stuff, just nice little things to change to be inclusive and whatnot. But other things, I'm like, oh, I like the fact that they changed that, or they got to that part of the story a whole lot faster.
Oh yeah, actually, one of my favorite aspects. What's it called? I think like another behind the scenes thing, like production wise for the Invincible. I remembered watching like a clip from the Escape podcast. They're very well known. They actually interviewed Robert Kirkman, and it was actually because like they mentioned it's like for some reason we have like a nice female following base or whatever, and then all of a sudden whenever they mention Invincible, it tends to shoot up. The ratings for whenever their female audiences hearing anything about Invincible, it shoots up. And it turns out Robert Kirkman stated that they happen to have lots of women animators on that show. But not only that, it's the fact that Invincible might be one of the only other shows made in America, because most of the animation in terms of fight scenes and battles or just anything in general nowadays is always going to be outsourced to somewhere across the world. So that's why most movies, TV shows, and obviously animes are made in Japan, Korea, China, stuff of over on the other side of the world. But over here we don't have many other animation studios, and if so, it's for like CG stuff, and it takes years and years and years to get stuff done. And we have to pay people here a bit more for that kind of effort, but they tend to be more cheap when it comes down to stuff like that. For again, it's all business stuff. So the fact that Invincible is made more in America than it is elsewhere, that also explains a lot of the strange animation techniques that they used throughout the show. So it's a product of the USA, baby. Born in the USA. I don't know how I can make this dude look African, or at least give some kind of African vibe. Man, I could probably. This is a really interesting character. Honestly, I would probably take this character and find a way to use him in either some kind of definitely a different kind of sci-fi setting, especially with he's all big and bulky. Might make him like either the mechanic of like the big hunky mechanic, but then he actually has like a very feminine hobby.
Loves to crochet or something.
Yeah, exactly.
I used to love to crochet when I was a kid. My grandma taught me. I really liked sewing. My mom never wanted to let me sew because she didn't want me tearing up her sewing machine. You know, not because she didn't want me to be a fairy, but no, because she didn't want me tearing up her expensive sewing machine that like she made a lot of clothes and stuff with, and she knew how easy they were to tear up, and she knew my little ADD self would try and do something I shouldn't be doing with it, which I usually did when she wasn't looking, and did tear it up a couple of times. In my defense, if she would have just taught me how to use it correctly, I wouldn't have made a lot of the mistakes that I made. But hindsight is bliss, but that's not the right saying, but you get my drift.
Benjamin asking what happened to the guy's second set of arms. Honestly, I was kind of going for it, but I don't know. The vibes weren't vibing there at the time being, and I kind of like where I'm going with it as of right now. Because also drawing four arms and whether or not I want to be anatomically correct is, I don't know. I kind of like where I'm going with this. I mean, maybe I can do another set of arms, but I don't know what I would even do with them. I don't know. I'm trying to figure it out here. Also, I think I've seen people compare Omni-Man's look to J. Jonah Jameson. I have seen some of that as well. I mean, it's also voiced by J.K. Simmons. So, I mean, the guy literally, it's like you took J. Jonah Jameson and literally made a evil Superman character out of him.
Yeah, 100%.
guess my kind of guy would actually be more of a fruit salesman of some kind.
Okay. Oh, that works, sort of. That works, sort of, kind of, iffy, sort of. No, that's not going to work. We're going to need that to do something like that.
Although I do like this design for the actual alien. It's very intriguing. I would definitely utilize that while I can. He's also a fighter. You know what? By fighter... Oh, shoot. He's a fighter. Which, in Dungeons and Dragons terms, he's like the weapon specialist. Almost forgot about that portion there.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah.
I was going to say something, but you know.
I don't know. I'm kind of going in on this wit's end. Again, that's like every episode, but this one is definitely a... Yeah, this was also a rough week, not going to lie. So for me, it was definitely a...
Let's see. Dragon Gaming's previous.
Y'all catch my
I
previous
can
comment.
imagine these two characters being a merchant and inventor. They create the weapons and armor and sell items themselves. Premium weapons and armors guaranteed. Quality tested. Tested them ourselves. Can you imagine they are friends that argue, great salesmen, and they tested what they made to perfect the quality of their items they invented? Cool. Nope, I absolutely missed those, dude. Thanks for pointing it out. 100% missed them.
I guess we can also make a different shape for currency here.
Okay. I don't want to shrink him, but I'm going to. Because I want to get that whole gun.
Let's do that. Make it look like a strange little form of currency. That's actually something I like about some fantasy worlds, is that they can come up with their own shape, for how money looks. Like for us, we use rectangles as, we use rectangular pieces of paper as forms of money. We use circular pieces of metal for coins, and it's like, it could have been any shape. We could have had hexagon-shaped coins. We could have had square-shaped coins.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
We could have, and that's the kind of thing I enjoy about like thinking up alien races and stuff. Is like, well, if their hands work like that, then how would they get their clothes on, and how would their clothes fasten, and would they have zippers or buttons, or would everything have to pull on because they don't have digits that are as flexible as like our opposable thumb? And if that's the case, then if everything has to be pull on, like I made this one alien race that had essentially, they just had like three big stumpy fingernails coming out of their of like a paw hand, just these three articulate claws that came out. And because of that made me have to rethink a lot of things. So when it came to their clothing, everything like had to pull on, because they couldn't manipulate a zipper or buttons, or the buttons would have to be freaking gigantic. So everything was like a tunic and stuff that they could pull on. And then when I started making their clothes, I started putting big bands around the top of everything and around like the sleeves and stuff. So there's something they could easily grab onto with those claws to help pull and make sure it was on right. And then I started thinking about what would their lettering be like, and I thought, what if they just made marks with those big claws? So their lettering and stuff became a series of like stripes and patterns, and so then all of a sudden, all the crew got this same like stripe pattern tattoo on them, because it just made sense that, that's what their like group insignia and stuff would look like. Like maybe it's the name of their ship, maybe it's, you know, some
It could be
chant or something they remember from some time, or
it could be like a sign of peace, or maybe even a sign of a warlord, or something of that kind of thing. Caliber.
Mhm.
Maybe depending on the marks, the kind of like how over here, like in our real world, flags also happen to have different meanings, different connotations. Like back in the pirate age, if you actually had a red flag of some kind, that was actually, you were more of a deadlier pirate with a red flag than you did with a black flag and the skull and crossbones, which I don't know the historical facts about that. I do know there was a pirate ship that did have like a skeleton and a bleeding heart or something like that.
yeah.
But
And so like that's the kind of stuff I enjoy thinking through. And like, if their legs bend backwards and they tend to walk on all fours half the time, then what do the chairs look like in their ship? And what does the cockpit of their ship look like? And all these questions that suddenly come to mind. And that's where I end up having a lot of fun, but I also tend to get lost in the weeds with it sometimes.
as we all do when creating worlds. All right, I'm actually kind of digging this concept. Again, it takes me a second, but I really, really like this one. Actually having to design these aliens, it kind of reminds me, I've actually designed a bunch of these like alien characters, if you will, or these alien species. If I ever did like a full blown custom like D&D style, like a tabletop RPG of some kind. These were like they were like very, very custom. I even used some of these designs in my book of the Unbeatables, as one of them was used as like my supposed forearms. He was the big like red dude. His name was Bruiser. I remembered I used him. I think it was in the second book. It's a very interesting design. There we go.
So I'll ask the chat a question. Have y'all seen any of Spider-Man Noir yet? I was telling Esteban I just watched the first episode right before we came on the show, and I really liked it so far. And I don't like Nicolas Cage very much, so that's really saying something that I enjoyed it as much as I did.
That you seeing something.
I found out not too long ago what it is I don't like about what it is that really bothers me about Nicolas Cage. I I never understood why some people are so crazy about him, and I've known some ladies that are just like, "Oh my gosh, he's the sexiest man alive. I can't get enough of Nicolas Cage." I'm like, "Really? You talking that weird dude with the big nose that acts all goofy in the movies and stuff?" And I could not see it. I just couldn't understand it. But okay, whatever. I'm not going to yuck your yum. If that's what you're into, then enjoy. But I finally found out in some interviews talking with people in his circle and people that knew his dad and whatnot, um, that how some people are like method actors and have everybody call them by the character's name and live as that character while they're filming and stuff, and go really over the top with that. Or some people are really looking for the truth in the character, and there's all these different schools of thought to how to be a great actor. The Nicolas Cage got in with an acting teacher, who really believes in overacting, in acting as hard as you possibly can, as much as you can in every scene, just the whole like chewing on the scenery kind of thing that they talk about. Uh, just act as hard as you possibly can, and that is the thing that I don't like. That's what rubs me wrong about Nicolas Cage, is he's always overdoing it, and it doesn't feel real to me like it does. Like other characters, other people can be more subtle and bring in parts of their real life and suddenly make, a character like the Kingpin or something in Daredevil feel very real without having to, overact it as much as Nicolas Cage does. And, it's a choice, and he's shooting for something very particular, and some people can't get enough of it and think his work is just the bee's knees. But I personally have yet to care for it. Occasionally he will do something that I like, but I think it's more accidental or editing than it is his choices. But, that's okay. He probably doesn't like my books, and that's okay. I'm not hung up about it. He's going for what he's going for, and I hope he finds it, and it's clearly made him a lot of money, and I hope he enjoys it, and I hope his fans enjoy everything that he does. But surprisingly, with the expectations I had going in, I've really liked what I've seen in Spider-Man Noir so far. I
It's
think they've
very
made
interesting.
a lot of smart choices in the way they've done things, and they're definitely getting a good noir feeling, but they're not so beholden to that aspect that they can't do anything out of add any little modern context to it. They can sprinkle in some little things here and there that fit without being too obvious. Been enjoying it.
Well, that's good. Speaking of like all the talk of Spider-Man and stuff, something I've always kind of like weirdly noticed, especially nowadays, is that we put so much of a heavy emphasis on some characters in the pop culture space, right? But like for instance, when it comes down to like say for instance, yes, the Nicolas Cage, Spider-Man Noir show, it's fantastic from how it sounds, right? It even gained the Mr. Fish, thumbs up of approval. But like for instance, when Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man came out, the Disney Plus show, I feel like whoever dawns on like whoever is like the next, I would say, victim of being Spider-Man, I feel like it's like there's such a pressure to play that character in either some newer interpretation. Like, you know what I mean? It's like that is going to be like their definitive like role in a weird way.
Yeah, I mean, it's been such a big deal for everybody that's played it so far that now they're expecting it to be the case for everybody. And even what was his name? Hammond, the dude that played Spider Man in the 70s TV movie
Mm-hmm.
version that I love and is my definitive Spider Man when I was a kid. Um, like that was an albatross around his neck. Like that was hard for him to make it past because it just typecast him as like, oh, you're that guy that played Spider Man, and you know it wasn't as received as well, and was treated as a silly kid thing, and that was hard to make it past, which is tough. That's a shame.
Yeah.
And now he doesn't get the respect for it that I think he deserved. But
And I mean, even nowadays too, like with whoever's like for instance, David Cornswell, guys playing Superman, that is now like going to be his definitive role from here on out. And he's probably a really good actor outside of Superman. Now he is going to forever be known as like Superman.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you're either going to kill it and be known forever as that, or you're going to be the guy that screwed up as Superman and nobody likes for that. And that's a shame because a lot of the actors that like have played Superman but didn't get the attention or weren't liked as much might be good actors. Like I really liked the guy that played him in Superman Returns, I think it was, and
Mm-hmm.
played the Atom on the CW shows.
Yep.
I liked him. I think he's a good actor. I think he's a cool guy. But after that Superman movie didn't do very well, or as well as they wanted it to anyway, he was pretty much just down to TV shows and stuff after that. That stinks. But
the Shark says, not a fan of Tom Holland Spider-Man. He just isn't giving me Spider-Man and Peter Parker vibes.
Really?
That is very interesting. I very much disagree with that statement, but I can see maybe where your points may lie. I think it might be maybe the earlier stages when they treated him like, I guess many people called him like the young Tony Stark, where he was just like getting all the new tech advancements in suits.
Yeah, I'm curious. What is it about him that's not giving you Peter Parker vibes? Because to me, other than he's a very handsome young man, and he's obviously muscular and stuff, so it makes it a little bit harder to believe that people would look at him as the awkward skinny nerd like they did Peter Parker in the original way back in the day comics. But he hasn't been a skinny little nerd in a long time. He's still a science geek and whatnot, and smart, but Spider-Man hadn't been that skinny in a long time. Still slim, but not
yeah, I mean, he's a lot more lean and muscular rather than actually being like,
bulky like Batman or something.
Exactly.
But I'm curious what you don't like about him as Peter Parker, because I thought he did a really good job of pulling that off. Like I think Garfield did a good job of Peter feeling smart, and I think he did a good job of pulling off the wisecracking smart aleck aspect of Peter and Spidey. And I think he did a great job with the mouthing off and the joking and stuff. I think he probably did the best out of everybody, in my opinion, for that. And I think he did a good job of pulling off like a bored slacker genius kind of vibe with Peter Parker, instead of like just the awkward nerd that nobody likes, kind of vibe that he originally had. For me, it's him over dependence on Stark Tech. Okay, yeah, I don't like that either, because that being so reliant on Stark Tech takes away. It doesn't give him the credit for being the genius that he is. He's just, because it's made him so reliant on Tony Stark's tech. And to me, that's a shame, because my favorite part about Peter Parker or Spider-Man is that Peter Parker is a genius and was smart enough to develop his webs and stuff, which is the part that I hated about Tobey Maguire's organic webs. And I get that it's easier and less explanation, except for, my OCD self is like, well, why don't they come out of his butt then? And he should be stretching them out with his feet into webs as they come out of his butt. If we're gonna do it literally, the fact that he had to figure this out and design it is part of what makes him a genius and part of why I love him. But you know, but that's me. He also said he comes off more annoying than quippy.
And I guess maybe that could be the intention. Like, if you really think about him having to fight crime, he would probably sound annoying to the villains and to those who fight him. And honestly, and I guess here's like my rebuttal against some of those claims too. Like the reliance on Stark Tech, I can totally see being like annoying to an extent, and that doesn't really make him feel like he's on his own. But I guess why I like Tom Holland Spider-Man is the fact that in a weird way, it allows him to feel like he's a lived-in character. Like Spider-Man at this point, let's be honest, if Marvel can restart, like basically they can start the whole new continuity, not even have to work on any other character, they would just focus on Spider-Man because he is such a main character. He is the main character of his own story. He happens to have side characters from people at the Daily Bugle, I meant. At the Daily Bugle, he has his love interest, his school friends. There is so much that Peter Parker and Spider-Man have to deal with as it is. And I feel like all the other superheroes could be secondary or like, other side characters to an extent. You know what I mean? So it's like the fact that Peter Parker in the Tom Holland films, he makes the world feel very immersed because he's actually living in that world. It's the fact that, yes, he has to rely on Stark Tech, but that's because Stark Industries is the only person that, probably allowed him to have that kind of technology. Probably gave him that opportunity that he needs in order for him to, develop and create half of his stuff, even going as far as to then eventually developing his very own suit in, of course, like Brand New Day. But again, that's like me having like to defend that, give it that like little rebuttal because,
I I see the problem with the Stark Tech reliance. I don't care for that because it takes away from him being his own genius and makes him reliant on somebody else, which I think is kind of a shame because my favorite part about him is him being a genius.
Mhm.
But also, this Peter Parker is in a world, he's in the MCU where all these other heroes have been around a whole lot longer than him instead of him coming out around the same time as everybody else. And so he's in a world where Tony Stark is way ahead of him. Even if their genius were identical and they were like at the same level, Tony's been doing this longer, has bigger resources, is more famous, has been doing the hero thing for longer. In the world this Spider-Man is in, he's the obvious guy for him to look up to and, want to be like. And it did give him an opportunity. They gave all of the writers and stuff an opportunity to play out some of those, I wish I had a dad aspects. I wish I had somebody to answer my questions and, and be my mentor and tell me what to do now that Uncle Ben's gone. And I think that led to some great storytelling opportunities for that character. And, how bad that had to hurt when Tony got mad at him and was disappointed in him and stuff. I think that's for the world that this Spider-Man is in. I think that makes good sense for the character. Still not my favorite thing because it it makes him,
Reliant.
yeah, a Stark Tech, you know, wannabe dude instead of being the kid that developed all this stuff on his own, which is something I loved about watching like Andrew Garfield going through all the iterations of trying to electric proof his web shooters and stuff. Like that was fascinating to me. I really enjoyed that little montage. But um but I get it. I have the same problem with it. I think it kind of works in this world, but
Works more
to
efficiently here because there's more characters to be developed. There is an actual world that you can dive into. Because the thing is, with Tobey Maguire, Andrew Garfield, their universes are very separate, and it only relies on Spider-Man characters. Hence, why you can make tons of Spider-Man content because there's so many characters in Peter Parker and in Spider-Man's livelihoods. Not even counting other superheroes. You have all of Spider-Man's rogues gallery, which is like 90% of all of New York. Then you have people at the Daily Bugle. You have J. Jonah Jameson. You have Mary Jane Watson. You have Aunt May. Probably might even have the bodega guy. Probably know what Peter Parker's all about. You know what I mean? So again, Peter Parker brings like that main character energy in his world, and it makes a lot more sense as to why, like, if you were to make a whole solo series off of it, like, yeah, it made sense because he has enough of a supporting cast of characters to do his own thing. But since he's tied to the MCU, it makes sense that he actually, like a web, connects everything together. Hence why it works, and I can see why people aren't big fans of it.
Yeah, I mean, if it were me doing his story, I would have wanted to focus more on him being his own genius, but also I probably would have done something similar just because of, this is the world that he's come into. And that's the thing. Like, it's just like the same thing with Invincible. You're getting an opportunity to retell the story, so you can take all the best things about the original telling, and it gives you an opportunity to go back and revisit some things and say, well, what could I have done better? What would make the story hit more, make some of those emotional beats hit better, or, this, that, or the other. I was real. I was always the guy that was going to be, oh, that's not the way it was in the comics. And the only time I didn't get super annoying with that was the Ninja Turtle movie, because it was a good mix of the original comics and the cartoons that everybody loved. And for those that loved the comics before the cartoon, like me, it blended the two together really well. For people that only knew the comics, the cartoons, they're like, well, why did they change this? That's not the way it was. Well, no, because that's the way it was before you. They changed it for you. But anyway, I then when Todd McFarlane was doing the Spawn movie and everybody was getting bent out of shape that he changed some things, he was like, why would I not change some things? I'm getting another chance to tell this story. Why would I not take the opportunity to make the story as the best I can when I get a chance to retell it? So when I'm telling it to a new audience, yeah, 100%. I'm going to change things and I'm going to try and make it as cool as I can. And I never got it until that moment, that you're getting a chance to retell it all over again from scratch. This is a great opportunity to fix things or change things that could have been better. And, you know, I'm probably going to do the same thing if I ever get the chance to retell Green Zone again from scratch. I'm going to change some things up and have it hit the beats that I was hoping it would hit, that it didn't quite hit the way I wanted it to, as quickly as I wanted it to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like same thing. Well, I mean, I don't need to be doing that often because I know I have a tendency to do that as it is. But if I was to ever, take any other idea, like say for instance the Grub, and then incorporate ideas that I came up with that definitely fleshed out the world, and then to obviously lead up to him teaming up with the Unbeatables or something like that, I would definitely do the same thing as well. Because again, there's lots of intricate things that I always wanted to dive into, especially with my superhero stuff. Anyways, thank you for understanding my point of my perspective there, Mark the Shark. Benjamin says there are criticisms to a lot of stuff, like how Eddie Brock and Cletus Cassidy weren't the hosts of Venom and Carnage in the Ultimate Spider-Man cartoon. I think it's for obvious reasons too, because here's what I will say. I actually used to watch that Spider-Man cartoon, the earlier, it was like early 2000s. I remember I grew up on that one. I think it was like in 1993 when that show came out, if I'm incorrect. I'm not sure. I was clearly born after that. But there was tons of restrictions back then for cartoons, especially superhero stuff.
He's saying Ultimate Spider-Man. That
Ultimate.
wasn't. That was the Amazing Spider-Man, the one that came out in the '90s. Like that
Okay.
one, he could punch anybody, or like it was really limited on that one.
They couldn't even hurt the pigeons in the freaking city itself for some reason. Like that's how. Sorry, like knowing that backstory is really interesting. Just the fact that they were so like super strict because they don't want to teach kids how to be violent. It's like the whole point of Spider is that he has to beat up bad guys, and be the hero. I don't know.
Yeah, it was weird. But yeah, the Ultimate Spider-Man one was a different one. Came out later, probably.
Was that the MTV one?
No, I don't think it was the MTV one. I think Ultimate was the one. I think that's the one that had Power Man and had.
Oh wait, okay.
Power Man and White Tiger, I believe.
Yep. Okay, so with Drake Bell from Drake and Josh as the voice of Spider-Man. Gotcha. All right, I was also kind of raised up on that one a little bit. I was like so on that one. I guess I just love the narrative flow of the 90s one because it was just a lot more intriguing to me. There we go. All right, this is coming along great, actually. Loving this design overall. Again, to show off. It's very simple. I think I've gone so simple with these designs just because I don't know what I'm doing nowadays.
Man, I wish I was going simple. I keep going complicated.
Oh. There we go. Yeah, the green. What's it called there? Yeah, but Green Zone there isn't. Yeah, but Green Zone, there is a necessity to make an absolute version, but could make it an opposite. Interesting. Like the absolute Green Zone.
Well, if the absolute versions are all about
taking something away from
them, I don't know.
So to do the opposite would be to give them something.
Oh man, that would completely change
everything.
Some things, like if you gave Virgil a family that loved him, he would not be what he is now. Like, oh man, that would be. Ooh.
That would be something.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, I haven't really even gotten into describing in the book yet what his power really is. Like, if you're paying attention, you probably know if you're really following along. And like I never spelled out Danny's power either, though. If, like I said, if you're paying attention, you probably know what Danny's power is by the end of the 4th book. But if not, you can go to GoMrFish.com right now and still sign up on the get in the what is it called, the late pledges for the trade, and get you a copy of that still.
Both characters are looking great, says Dragon Gaming. Thank you so much. Dragon Gaming also said that Mr. E is trying his best. Oh, thank you so much. I really am. Yeah, I'm trying to find like the.
He meant it's not a necessity to make it an absolute green sign. Yeah, it's not. But Now you got me thinking about it.
I had this joke of an idea. I always wanted to kind of like I wanted to do the series of like the Heroes of Gold. I have yet to get back onto any of that just because of how things have been going over here, life wise. Life, not wife. Me and the wife are doing
Oh
great.
no, yeah, it's too late. I heard it wrong. You're done for.
Oh no. But it's like if I had like there's something I always wanted to do. I want to do the Heroes of Gold and basically just make all the heroes proper the way that I would reimagine them, whatever. But then I had like this concept to do what I would call the unit verse because it was a dumb joke that I had in my head where I was like, oh, it's like, they're absolute units. Don't know why. It was a dumb little idea, but like imagine creating like again the quote unquote like the absolute rendition of every single one of these like public domain characters or heroes of gold or maybe even like ultra valley renditions. Like obviously what if I did an ultra, like the absolute unit verse, if you will, for the grub? Like what aspect would I take away from that? Like take away from him in order to make him very different. So I would love to touch on stuff like that.
What would you be able to take away from the grub that would make him a very different character?
Okay. That's a really good
Have
question.
you gotten a chance to like really get into his like family life and stuff yet?
I was actually I have not made a single post about this, so y'all are hearing this now here on Roll for Hero. But I decided that I am enhancing it because obviously I'm now properly formatting the entire comic book to fit a comic book thing because I made it for a zine, so the images there are very big and the bubbles are too out there. So I actually officially gone on to, it's not a reboot, it's not nothing. This is like a proper
Just
retelling.
reformatting it.
Exactly. And I am loving this page, by the way. This goes to show you the level I'm taking for this. Yeah, I'm selling myself out. So this is the first page for the grub number 1, and then we got page 2 over here, and then we got up to page 3. And then here, if you can tell, it's actually a photo of his family. And then that's actually where I'm diving into that big event I mentioned also a couple episodes back of this big event that occurred known as the Great Collide. And then this actually dove into like that great power comes great responsibility quote, and it came from his dad. And he goes like, if I have the chance to help someone, then I don't get to walk away, and that there was like his with great power comes great responsibility moment. So if I had to take away something from the grub, it's like if I had to take that concept of that saying, like if I can help someone, then I don't get to run away. I don't get to walk away out of that.
Oh, but see, then if you take that away, then what kind of character does he become without that moral North Star to guide him? Like, does he become more of a vigilante?
Probably like at this point, it would definitely be more of a self-serving thing. I think he would probably go the route of like what Peter Parker would do and in the first place, which is very much to make profit, do whatever, basically try to be famous, utilizing his skills or his abilities. Maybe at first it's for financial gains because, after the events of this collide, he lost his dad and his mom is single. So
is ready. Sorry.
No, you're good, man. But that is some intricate stuff for this robot, man.
Oh man, and this is simple. I can't freaking do robots without going over the top.
Yeah, hero for money, essentially. The grub would definitely be a like paid. He would definitely work for a corporation because the way that I kind of set up my world for this grub stuff, it even ties into the unbeatables and stuff like that. In this world, heroes are also like a paid occupation. Kind of like in Dispatch, My Hero Academia. You can be a superhero that works for a government, works for an agency, works for even as like them being a mascot character for a company. Even like imagine if McDonald's started hiring different superheroes so that they can sponsor them, kind of a deal. It's kind of like that.
They would.
Oh, 100%. So like imagine so for the Grub, he wouldn't really have that moral like North Star of like helping people because he can, but he's only doing it for the sake of clout, for the sake of money, for finances, and that's all he would
Mhm.
do. And if I guess like if I had to make that absolute rendition, it's like he doesn't get to walk away, or it's like, if I think it's more like if I can help someone, I don't get to walk away. It's more like when you help someone, you can't walk away. And it's more like so instead of it being if I can help someone, it's more like when you help someone, you can't walk away because of like now there's the tying down of financial gain. So he would definitely be a hero for hire essentially.
Oh, I see what you're saying. I was thinking more of a like either pay up or I walk away kind of vibe, but I get it's the responsibility of it. It's the no. If I help out, then I don't get to walk away. I see what you're saying. I don't have that freedom anymore to do what I want to do.
Exactly. So it would kind of be like taking again, you're kind of abusing the idea that you get to have a corporate superhero and he's now like on a chain. He's on a leash now.
Hmm.
So the Grub is supposed to be like his own hero. He's not tied to any corporation. He is, very much an off-grid hero, pure vigilante by the eyes of society, and it's like that's super no bueno type of situation. So it's more like taking away his freedom of being a hero to then being more of a corporate one.
Hmm.
It could still be a blessing in his favor because he gets to provide for his family, his single mom, his older sister,
Oh
because
yeah.
that would make a lot of sense for that. So that's more or less what I would do if I had to do the absolute rendition of the Grub or the unit verse rendition of it. That he would be like a celebrity style hero. They took a gross, disgusting concept of a bug and made it one of the most marketable, type of heroes. Kind of like with spiders. Let's be honest, no one likes spiders. We're scared of those things. I know I am, but you end up creating make him marketable like Spider-Man. Yeah, of course everyone's gonna love that guy. But Mr. Fish, does it have any corrupt officers in the Green Zone universe?
Yes, they do. That's one of the things that comes up in originally in issue 2. Now it's more towards the beginning of the book. Um, but when Virgil is getting ready to leave for work for the day, the gang that rules the block that he lives in, the basically the giant government housing unit that he lives in, um, he gets stopped by the gangsters and they harass him and like rip up his clothes and stuff, trying to force him and threaten him into working for them and being one of their men on the inside of the force, which goes to show they've already probably got people inside working in his unit. And I don't want to go much further on that part, but so yeah, they have had bad people working for him before. That's part of the problem is like the gangs really want to put people on the force, and when your mom and your dad and everything like live in the blocks, it's real easy for them to be able to put pressure on you to do what they want, which ends up with a lot of genomes, getting busted for being corrupt. And then that just helps the society at large look at them and be like, well, see, they told me on Fox News they were all bad and they were all just monsters waiting to happen. And, you know, it just leads into the hysteria and the stereotyping and stuff that
Fear
makes it
mongering.
so hard to make a living and get by as a mutant to start with. And I love the way it all like plays into itself. But but yeah, there are absolutely corrupt cops. There are just bad cops. Like Virgil's first interaction in the book with police officers are two genome cops that just come into his block looking for people to push around just because they're small petty men and this is their first taste of having any power, and joining the G Unit, which is basically just used to police the green zone, because human officers don't want to go into the green zone and have to worry about the next person you pull over for a traffic stop being able to shoot lasers out of their eyes or something. So let the mutants do that. They can police their own kind, and if they can prove that they're not a threat, then they can move out and have a better life. So they're looked at as traitors and collaborators and stuff, and you sold out your own kind to get a leg up with the man, like you're an Uncle Tom or something. And it's a no-win situation. So like the first cops that he has any dealing with in the book come in just to push people around and feel like big shots because everybody hates him anyway. And then when he scares them, they beat him up. Then all of a sudden they have to charge him with something, so he gets a felony charge for using his powers, which really just means they scared him until he shot blood out of his eyes on him, and they got scared and beat him up when he was 5 years old. But he was also the size of a junior high kid at 5 years old because he was big.
And we're going to address some comments here. Benjamin says, I know for my plan to make an absolute Nightwave is to take away his redemption arc with Caesar Solomon being placed into military school and his unit commanding officer secretly works for a company. Interesting. That is a really interesting take. I would love to see how that goes down. I would love to see the OG Nightwave concept. So then that way I can see the comparison of it. That would be awesome. And then the one above that was, imagine if the girl-up's older sister was a superhero. I actually never took that into consideration because I like the idea that instead of Peter Parker trying to hide away his identity from, like, say, one person, in this case, for my character, he would have to hide it from his mom and his sister because, his sister is like an academic genius. They're trying their best to be good in school. And the last thing, she needs to realize that her little brother is a superhero. Plus, I know how siblings operate. They'll definitely use it as blackmail. Mom, like so-and-so has superpowers and they're a superhero and blah, blah, blah. Like it would be.
And they're going to catch you way before mom and dad are going to catch you. And then hold that over your head. And there's a lot of great potential storytelling there.
Oh, yeah. And that's one of the things I'm super excited about diving into the Grub. Because in a weird way, the Grub is like the Spider-Man fan fiction that I've always kind of wanted to create. But instead of it with a spider, I did it with a very different, bug, which I'm super excited for. Again, I love the ideas that I have for it, especially that Handman villain is so hilarious. Fist Face McGee, gotta love it. That and then
oh man, you've got to have at some point, just for me, as an honor to my boys, you have got to have at some point the sister find out about it and he doesn't know that she knows, and then like mom catches on to something and is yelling at him about it and realizes, that like maybe she's starting to suspect or something. And the sister's like, oh, no, that was me. And totally takes the blame and gets in trouble for whatever he did and throws suspicion off. And mom's like, oh, okay, that wasn't it. And then he realizes sister knows because she just took a bullet for him that she shouldn't have taken normally. But,
Oh, 100%. 100%. Yeah, I would do that. Because that would, again, it also unites the siblings together because I like the idea that, because again, actually, a friend of mine and I, actually, the reason why the character even has a sister to begin with was actually due to a friend of mine who wanted to, who chucked that idea out there. So I'm definitely utilizing it. And the idea was that they were both like academic rivals in school. And they were trying to not gain the favor of their mom, but basically kind of like that in a way, because again, their dad is gone. They're basically trying to pick themselves up, trying to do good in school, not have to make her worry.
So I 100% used the position of my favorite son as a way to motivate my boys. Now, you can tell me I'm a monster. I don't care. I totally used it. And it was like lighthearted, and it wasn't like I love this child more. I was always very clear. I love them all equally, but I was like, but Bear is my favorite child right now because he's been the most helpful and he hasn't been getting kicked out of school and he he hasn't been sent home with notes from school every day. Or Jay is my favorite because he helped me build this piece of furniture and he's been
Downright
following
diabolical.
instructions and did the dishes without complaining. And usually, like, my favorite child was the one that did did their chores without griping and got their homework done and whatnot.
That's
Um,
despicable. How dare you?
yeah, I totally. Well, I was watching oh Wahlburgers, and and seeing how manipulatively their mom uses being her favorite child to have them constantly fighting with each other, which is not cool the way she does it. But I don't even understand why she does it, but she does. But just that got the idea in my head that you could use it as a tool for whatever that reason is, and I don't know what she's getting out of it. It doesn't make any sense to me, but that made
I
me
feel like,
think of it as something that you could use as a tool. And so I was
oh,
like, okay, then my favorite
100%.
kid is the one
I'm
that's
definitely going with I'm definitely going with that idea. Especially like at first, maybe that the siblings thought to themselves, you know what, we should probably make it easy for mom. We're gonna do good in school because as it is, we lost dad. We don't need any of this stuff anymore. We don't need to make her life any harder. So we're gonna try to make it easy. And I guess
Mhm.
along that journey, they started becoming rivals to each other. Well, I did this. Well, I did that. Well, I did this and I did that. So they're basically kind of like going at each other's heads of like, well, I actually accomplished more. I did more of this. I did more of that. And they're like they're not dumb, but they're not smart kids either. So they're probably like not socially the best, but academically they're pretty smart here and there. Not like Peter Parker levels of smart, but smart enough to get out of high school, maybe even get a class or two off, kind of a whole ordeal. So I mean, I'm not opposed to that, and I think that would also be really interesting as well, especially if the sister finds out and he's like, "Oh crap, she knows. What am I gonna do now?" And
Mhm.
now it's like a non-verbal agreement. It's more like I have a sword at your throat, you have a sword at my throat. If one of us takes a step forward, we're both getting stabbed, kind of a situation.
Mhm.
That's a very interesting, concept to use there. So I actually can't wait to dive into topics like those, especially with all the wacky and the weird
Way
villains.
more complex than he had to be.
Oh yeah, mine has definitely gone the more. I just added like strange little you know, the snake-like thing there. I don't know. I really like the way this came out. Again, every episode I'm always shocked on how I end up either liking something. I think what was the one character that I wasn't really vibing with? I don't know. This is a very intriguing season, nonetheless. Every episode always kept
Mhm.
chucking me
Okay,
into it.
now while we've got 6 people watching, let's ask again because we asked at the beginning of the show. We talked about the idea of how, I mean, we've been enjoying this season, but it has been more challenging. And like Esteban's been having a hard time getting excited about these characters as easy as it was with some of the other seasons and characters that we've done. And it definitely was a slower burn to get to feeling like there was a cohesive story pulling all this together. Um, and we've also noticed that it's been we people have been less active in the comments on this season. There've been less fan art and stuff being drawn this season. So if you guys aren't feeling this Sandal-punk season as much and aren't as excited about it, and half the show being that we want to be encouraging you guys to be creative and draw and come up with cool stuff yourselves, then we tossed around the idea of possibly pivoting and doing something different for the rest of the season, whether that be um,
As Benjamin said,
redesigning old characters or redesigning characters you guys have drawn, or as one of them, Ben or Dragon Gaming, who was it? Ben?
he
Somebody
Ben
suggested earlier.
Ben just said to like roll a new
Yeah.
fusion universe for the rest of the season. Not opposed to that either. Or, I
Mhm.
mean, heck, with this being the last day of this month, if you will, we can start Kai June, maybe even do, like a kaiju style episode for next week. But yeah, just like that. Plus, I did suggest making a kaiju
Mhm.
since next month is Kai June. Love the mentioning there. So I guess just to make it a little easier for us, since we still have six of y'all here at the time being, I would say one, if you want to I would say like put a one in the chat if you want us to continue on and try to finish up this universe, because again, I am always surprised with what I managed to create. Again, the whole point of this is to create a challenge. It's to create art that inspires. And I know that rolling isn't as prevalent as much because we only have to roll for like three different things, and then the visuals is a different situation. So I would say put a one in the chat if you want us to continue with this universe, or maybe like put a two in the chat for probably diverting and doing something a little different. So then that way we can still get the season on a good roll, if you will, pun intended or not. That is for your interpretation. Because again, I really enjoy the show. You know how much I love Roll for Hero. I love what we managed to create. And again, I'm always surprised on what, at least for this season in particular, I am very surprised what I've managed to create thus far. I loved the designs are always shocking to me just because I'm not expecting to draw any of this. So the fact that it is pushing me out of my comfort zone, it is getting me to make stuff. And if I had to think about this from an industry standard, come on, Uncle E English. You're probably going to do a lot of stuff that you're not really wanting to do, but you're probably the artist for the situation at hand. Like
Mhm.
maybe, like, and I can imagine
Oh,
Fish.
trust
Yeah.
me. Yeah. Go ahead.
Oh, yeah. I was going to say, because, like, basically, this is also good. I'm trying to at least find some teachable moment out of this, because definitely for sure this is one. If there's a teachable moment for this season, is that you're definitely going to want to do. You're definitely going to do something that you're not really fully on board with, but you're probably the only artist that happens to have that skill set to take care of making the art for that kind of situation, right? And I mean, I've been enjoying a lot of the characters that we've done thus far, or at least what I managed to create thus far for this season. I love the fact that it kind of pushed me out of my comfort zone to creating the designs that I made thus far. Again, things that I thought I would have never made, I made it that way. Also, thanks to the help with you guys. But yeah, I mean, personally, I'm kind of struggling a little bit to keep up with the with this entire season thus far. We have Mark the Shark saying, continue with this universe. We have Summer Bandit 888 stating, for me, I like the brainstorming and creativity. The overall universe it's set in is not a big deal for me. It could switch every episode, and I'd be cool with it. Mark the Shark says, guys, where can I send you some of my character designs for some critiques? Uh, Obviously, our socials. Make sure to utilize hashtag Roll for Hero if you're trying to kind of garner from that, so that we can kind of start pulling and going from there. Summer Bandit says, maybe the more you create a universe or ideas. Hold on, either I'm going crazy or I'm going crazy. Maybe the more you create a universe or idea will present itself organically. And you're very much correct on that, Summer Bandit. We have created a myriad of characters, and we eventually got to having like the main characters for this type of setting.
Mhm.
So, it took us a while to get to that point, and it's like I think the way that someone else described it was we were basically creating NPCs until we found the main character to this.
Yeah. And we found him eventually. Uh, but it took a second.
It did
But
take a
that's just
second.
the thing is, it's been a little bit slower burn of a season for us personally. But I mean, I'm still enjoying it. But also, if you guys aren't enjoying it as much, or aren't being encouraged to create cool stuff as much off of this one as if we went back to just like rolling up some superheroes for a little while, then that's something I want to take into consideration, because you guys are as important to this as anything else. Way more important than we are.
what's it called? We have Dragon Gamer saying, my answer is still the same, but I'm down for whatever you guys want to do. I want to draw more, but very to no time to. Okay, hold on. My answer is still the same, but I'm down for whatever you guys want to do. I want to draw more, but very to no time to do it.
Probably very little time to do it.
Very little time. Yeah, I knew that. Very little time to do it. That's understandable. I guess. From how it sounds, everyone wants us to continue this. So I mean, they have spoken.
That's cool with me.
If anything, it's something that I'm going to learn how to get through, anyways. I'm gonna use this as a teaching moment for myself, because there are things that I'm gonna probably do that I'm not really gonna be a big fan of, but I'm still gonna do it because first of all, you guys want us to do it, so we're gonna do it. And again, every episode, I've stated every episode for this entire season that I have been very surprised at every character that I've managed to create thus far, because again, I'm not expecting, because again, you see the head shape that I have up there, and then you see the guy that I have right down here. Not expecting to draw like this muscular, rhino-headed lizard cyclops dude, but here we are. And I like the way that this came out. I actually like the fact that we kind of created our first form of currency, at least for this. We have Summer saying, "I want you guys to have fun and enjoy it too. To enjoy it though as well. Your enthusiasm is contagious." Thank you for that. Benjamin says, maybe like next week do a kaiju or two designs for this world, or two designs for this world.
That could be cool too.
I mean, maybe we can do maybe for what? How about this? Just so that we can kind of diversify this world a little bit. Next week, instead of designing a character, let's design a kaiju for Kaijun set in this sandal-punk world. What kind of monsters live in this world? And I feel like we can definitely hop from there, expanding the idea, because right now we've created a lot of the inhabitants, but we haven't actually gotten to create the actual beasts or creatures that actually would be in this world, or something that people could be scared of. Let's do two. Okay, so we have, I guess, like by number two, it's like to design. Oh wait, hold on a second. I think I'm going crazy. Let's do two. Come back to this Stardust Odyssey after a quick break with a fresh mind. Okay. That's kind of off what I meant. Okay. Sorry about that, Benjamin. You know me and reading, it's never been a good relationship, and yet somehow I'm trying to make comic books. How that makes sense, we'll never know. Yeah, I think if anything, we should probably, what? I like the idea that maybe we should, I'm going to trudge it through. I'm making it sound so bad. I want to stick through with this. I want to see if I can be a man of my word on this season, because the vibes have been off for me, just because it doesn't feel like how it was for season 1 and 2, at least. Because again, season 1 and 2, we kind of got to create a little bit. Season 1, we just did whatever. We threw pasta at the wall, see what stuck. And then over here, yeah, because look, sounded right to me. But you know me in English.
Sorry, that just tickled me.
Season 2 was fun because there was a cohesive thing to go from there, because we had first episode we created the main characters, then we created side characters, the villains, that kind of whole thing. So there was something to build off of. But this one's interesting because it's like creating a D&D world. So we have a lot of NPCs. So maybe we can try doing something else a little different. Maybe, how about this? Because we have reached episode 7 of this season, and we've created a ton of characters. I think to really kind of give it a fresh perspective, right? I think we should probably stay in this world, but probably get away from characters and probably dive into more like other aspects of this world. Like, we didn't get to really see much of it. Like, what are the animals like? What are the, like the giant monster situation again? Like, how do those happen? Especially now that Kaijun's coming in, we can probably create a proper Kaiju-like monster for this world? Is it a machine-based one because of the automatons that live in this world? Is it, something based on Egyptian mythology? Is it based on North or Nordic, Celtic? Is it Japanese, Chinese? Who knows?
That could be interesting, and we could maybe delve into something else in one of the worlds that we've already touched on along the way. Like what would some of their ships look like, or what would some of the soldiers or the priests that sent the paladins out on their missions look like, or like we could play around and come up with some other interesting ideas in this world that we've already done to see, like, what does the temple that the clerics came out of look like, or
True.
like
The Order of the
some other
Paladin.
characters from the Thieves Guild, or all kinds of things we could do.
Okay, so then this is okay, because we've been doing a lot of character designs, and I think it's because most of the character designs, so like for instance, season 1, we've generated and created many characters, but that's also because those were kind of one-off type situations until we were able to tie them into someone else. Like for instance, the Bird Sisters and the American Eagle, because they tied in so well into the cyberpunk setting. But that's because they managed to be their own thing. I guess with this season, it's always interesting because we have so many different, characters. We have so many different backgrounds, different regions of this world. We could explore more with it in a way. Again, it's like we're creating a D&D world. It's not like with the cyberpunk and the steampunk world where we can just kind of create characters and we get a general idea of it. We're more set. I think it's because of like, how am I trying to say? I feel like I'm repeating myself here, but I'm trying to find a proper way to really like say it, where it's like with season 1, every character managed to be their own thing, and we were able to build from that. And it was still, because again, every episode we did something different. But because we're more centered in this world, because this is a definitive setting, because, this is something that we can dive into more, I feel like, we can definitely, expand on other aspects of it that doesn't have to rely solely on a character, but on a world building factor alone.
I think partly also, though, I think it comes down to comfort level, and like doing the superheroes is a lot easier to go anywhere and do anything because we're way more comfortable in that world than
Yeah.
other. This aliens and stuff is very comfortable for me as well, so this doesn't bother me as much as I think it's been bothering you. Coming up with
Yeah.
whole new things from scratch is still, it's still basically playing in the same sandbox to me, because I like coming up with characters that aren't superheroes just as much as coming up with characters that are. But I do have a whole lot more experience coming up with superheroes, though.
I mean, I was also going to say Alice in Wonderland is probably a big factor of that, given how you have to create like a lot of weird, wacky, interdimensional type.
Oh yeah, and I've been coming up with those characters for decades, so it's old hat to me. But I can definitely, and I think that's part of it. I think for on your end is it's pushing you way out of that comfort zone, and it's not giving you a break. It's not letting you go back into the place that is comfortable again and do Super Dude and then get pushed back out again. We just keep staying out of the country and not going back, and or keep staying in the deep
and also,
end.
that's probably what it is too. So for me, I should probably, like I said, I'm gonna stick through with it because obviously I need to challenge myself more, especially creating various and different kinds of characters. I definitely need to, and also, I mean, I also want to work on stories that aren't just superheroes. I just love superheroes so much because it's obviously my favorite genre that got me into doing what I am doing today. But of course, I have like other stories that I wanted to work on. Like I have the Galactic Delivery Dudes. I have fantasy stories that I actually want to tell because I've created Dungeons and Dragons worlds before. So for me, those aren't any.
And see, for me, the fantasy aspect has pushed me a little bit more out of my comfort zone than I'm normally at because I haven't done much of that since like high school and drawing regularly. So coming up with like, oh gosh, how am I going to make this look like a paladin and a cleric and make them look different from each other is more of a challenge to me now than it would have been 40 years ago.
Fish. Thanks to our nieces and nephews here on the chat. There were some stellar ideas. What's it called?
Oh,
So,
Jaeger to fight the kaiju. That'd be awesome.
Yeah. Maybe okay, you know what? I think because if I'm incorrect, next month is June, right? It is June next month, but it's more like it's starting literally.
If I'm incorrect. If calendar serves.
Yes, if calendar serves correctly.
I'm laughing because all month I thought my birthday was next month. For like the last 2 months, for some reason, I kept thinking my birthday was in June after 50 years of it being in May. And it's not that I thought it was in June. Every time I planned something for June, I was like, well, my birthday's that month. And I know it's not, but for some reason it got in my head. Anyway,
okay,
I digress.
So
that's why I laughed.
So next week, I think it would be interesting if one of us drew the Jaeger and then the other one drew the kaiju.
Okay.
So then, okay. I'm trying. I guess this is a way for me to kind of get into my little. Trying to add my comfort zone into this strange, complex, intricate universe, if you will. I like that. You know what? We're gonna do that next week because of Kaijun. We're gonna create a Jaeger and we're gonna create a Kaiju to duke it out. But we're gonna obviously create two culturally different ones because it would be very interesting to see how that would work out.
Oh, that would be interesting. Like, the Aztec Kaiju against the, I don't know, Japanese Jaeger or the Native American Jaeger, or that could be really interesting. Oh, if I get to pick, I want to do Aztec Jaeger. But anyway, okay, that's it. That's what we'll do next week for sure. That sounds like a lot of fun.
Because honestly, I think that's another. I think this would also really help the world expand. It helps expand the world, but also it's like finally getting to add some other things. Because I guess for me, I was always trying to go, trying to stick to the themes, but we got to be wacky. We got to be weird. We're drawing alien people from an ancient society, essentially. Ancient society robots. Make that make sense. We can't. Maybe. Who knows? Then what's it called? Benjamin says, it would be interesting to see a crossover between Oak Fang and the Grub. Honestly, that would be very interesting. But oh my God, the Primal Empire. I want to work on that so bad as like a manga series. That would work so well because honestly, I always wanted to do that. Dragon Game is saying yes because I believe that they're loving this idea. And then we got Benjamin saying, I accidentally gave an idea for next week's stream. Yes, you did. It is your fault. Enough said. Benjamin, it is your fault. You should feel painfully proud of yourself.
You should feel all the feels.
Exactly. Now look at you. Taking, giving us the inspiration. It should be the other way around, sir. Look at you. Thinking, I'm going to give them a better idea than ever. It's your fault, Benjamin. It's your fault.
That's what y'all be doing all the time. Just playing around like it's some kind of game, giving us ideas, sending us down rabbit holes.
Exactly. You should feel painfully proud of yourself, Benjamin. This is your fault.
I learned it from watching you.
As they probably say.
No, that doesn't work. He doesn't need a yellow eye. I don't know what color his eye needs to be.
Well, outside of that, though, I know you said that we had to get the stream done before 5 because I know that you got to get some stuff done. And it is, hold on.
Oh, yeah.
Because it is 5:28 for me. I know it's probably like.
It's 4:28 here.
Okay. All right. I forget. Florida time is different from Arkansas.
Yeah, that it is. But it's only so far different. Let me throw some kind of color on here. I don't think that's the color I want, but that's the color I got.
And then we got Better saying, but when in season 4, it'd be hitting Smoggist. I'm assuming just
Smog. The dragon Smog, I'm guessing.
Yeah. So it's like Kaiju and then Smoggist, so it's like, Kaijus to then dragons. It's always interesting to do some challenges like those. And we'll definitely see. Because I feel like honestly, I think I think the season might be done within June. yeah, I think like June getting into July, that's when this season should be relatively over because because it's 7. So we have about 5 more episodes left. So that means, yeah, basically we have the rest of June to finish off season 3. Season 4 is going to kick off in July, which is my favorite month because it's totally not at all my birth month. And then that dives right into August.
For the record, my birthday was in May this year as well. So everybody can put their mind at ease.
Yeah.
Okay. I like my African alien robot fighter inventor dude who it's not very clear in my drawing yet, but let me see, maybe this color will help.
Yeah, I was going to say, if anything, you want to show it off on the big screen so that way we can really dive into the designs and
He
see.
is that's not the one. That's the head I started from. Here we go. He is a robot fighter inventor. He's got his shield on his back, and he's got his magical potion powered Gatling arrow launcher, which has arrows in it. They're not real clearly laid out. There's the fletching, and there's the arrowhead in this magazine on top of his little spinning Gatling gun arrow launcher that shoots out at super high speed and is powered by it's almost like a steampunk, but it's powered by the magical chemicals that he mixed up in here that keep giving off a lot of energy and a lot of power that lets him power that. And I'm assuming he's probably powered by some kind of similar magic. And so anyway, that's my dude so far. I have no idea what his name is. Probably Chungus or something. But anyway, that's my dude, and I kind of dig him. I think he looks cool. I like the feathered shoulder dress that I picked up from several different photographs of different African warriors, and the problem is you get a few pictures of real African warriors, and then a whole lot of fantasy stuff and a lot of AI trash now, and so a lot of bowed up He-Man looking dudes with all kinds of European armor on, and I'm like, that's not
What I meant. Not what I meant.
I want something African inspired. So I found a few guys that had almost Middle Eastern looking wispy light cloth wrapping clothing kind of thing. So I took a little bit of that vibe for his diaper, I guess, and then some beads and some feathered shoulder dress from some other guys, and put it all together. And I like it. I like the way it came out. So let's look at your dude on the big screen as I have my mouse on the wrong screen. Here we go. And switching. There we go.
All right. So obviously, I just went in guns blazing on this one. Didn't really do a lot of like I didn't look up anything. I just kind of went at it. And big muscular dude. I wanted to do the forearm concept, but I feel I was trying, but the wasn't there. I feel like it could have been interesting if he did have forearms, but I went with like the armor plating, like the shoulder pads. This, kind of like that. I can say it's like a neck piece of some kind. I don't know what that's properly called, but I decided to go. Yeah, so it has like the different like little facial patterns of people from his kind and maybe others that might be part of his tribe. Went with a more shiny gold aesthetic for it. Decided to take the concept of the doodle and really just give him a full blown like big horn on his head. Of course, adding the hair to it, giving it that African-esque kind of look. I actually also like the light kind of shade, like from his lower jaw to his belly to the bottom. Really like that. And I kind of went a little bit like doing something like Dragon Ball related with Piccolo with the arms by kind of like ripping those again, giving it that strange kind of look. I also just like the fact that to him he's kind of like tossing or kind of like almost flicking a silver piece. and whatnot, and get to see like the very different, unique shape from it. I didn't. Again, this was a very, very simplified thing, but I can see him like as a fighter. He would definitely be like not just weapons expert, but definitely a hand-to-hand combat kind of guy. So I can definitely see him being like, he's like rough, he's tough, he's down into the ground sometimes if need be.
Mm-hmm.
And again, probably all that gold is from the amount of money that he wins from different fights. Being a merchant, also making some bets here and there. I think this is a really interesting concept for sure.
I like the idea that I liked the idea of 4 arms, but looking at him now, if he had 4 arms, he would very much look like Goro from Mortal Kombat.
I can see that.
He kind of has a bit of the dragon-esque vibe with the ribbed pattern down his chest and his arms, and I think he would read much more Goro. And I like this. I like this a lot. I think he came out really cool. And I love him flipping that piece. And thinking of that silver piece has me thinking of all kinds of things now. Like, how do they mold that? And how do they shape it? And how do people counterfeit it? And how do people, try and rip them off and stuff like that? Like, part of the reason that coins ended up with like ribbing around the outside, like a lot of our coins have, is because like the old school coins, people would regularly like file off the edges of the coins, and so they'd make it just increasingly a little bit smaller each time, and then take that gold and sell it or make something else out of it, and the coins just kept getting lighter and lighter and lighter and lighter, and so they ended up putting that banding around it, which I see in that banding around the edge of the coin design as like that's the pattern that you're looking for to know somebody hasn't like shaved off one edge of this, and made the little 3 legs shorter and shorter or something.
That too. Also, I mean, I guess in a weird way, because they have 3 fingers, it's also kind of like the way that they would hold it too. It's very much like akin to their finger pattern as well.
Yeah. Yeah, and all that I love thinking through that stuff, and that's the stuff that makes it fun to me. Gold is the weakest metals. Has been it is. It's nice and soft and malleable, which honestly is probably a big part of the reason that we used it for the fine jewelry and stuff, and it got so famous for that because it was the easiest to work into that. It would be way harder to work freaking titanium into a delicate necklace than it is gold. Like when you can just make links of gold and then stretch it and twist it and end up with a really cool bracelet after you hammer it flat, that's wild to me. But it's interesting.
But overall, this was at least on my side of things, this has always been a surprising thing because whenever I see these things, I'm like, how do I make this thing work? I'll figure it out. So I very much enjoy, how this all came out. This is another successful overall, episode of Roll for Hero. This was awesome. Also, there's also kind of a nice refresher again to actually think about other episodes ahead of this because a lot of character designs are a lot of fun. But obviously, because I'm chucked out of my comfort zone, I'm like, what do I do? Because I know Fish, he's having a heyday. He's having a blast and a half designing all these characters and trying to find a way to make them work. And for me, it's like,
I can see a lot of these characters ending up in the background of Alice or something somewhere, and she gets to go to so many different worlds that having a world filled with like African robot warriors, that's no problem at all. And so I dig this, but getting to go back to something like kaiju and stuff and still stay in this world, I think is a really great idea and a fun idea. So
and creates a lot of ideas, a lot of expansions. But I believe it is time for us to more or less end our stream here, guys. Like all good things, they unfortunately have to come to an end, and we have been at this for a solid 2 hours of yipping, yapping, and doing some drawing. So we're gonna end our stream here. So to our nieces and nephews and those in between, make sure to follow these 3 simple rules. Make sure to stay awesome, stay weird, and to keep life to the easiest. Always remember that art inspires all, but you can inspire more. But until then, everybody, stay ultra. You know, and even if you were to have like a prompt of 10 different things, right? Like say if you had one prompt of like, oh, like here's 10 different personality traits, here's 10 different superpowers, here's 10 different drawbacks.
I like coming up with random list of powers and then just see what I come up with.
Imagine rolling just those things every single time. It's always going to vary. You know, the possibility of that happening is again like a 1 in 10 chance, but it's like it shows that there's an infinite
There's always something else cool right around the corner that we can come up with because